All right, readers. Those clocks, they are striking 13, so let us begin. This week, we get Brave New World by Aldous. Something Huxley. However them British sound their own names, I can't tell you. But Mr. Huxley's Brave New World. One of the great dystopian novels ever written. Yeah, I haven't got to say dystopian in forever. Beginning of this little silly series, I was saying it every week. Now it's been a while, and I'm glad I'm back. Now Huxley and Bradbury, they're kind of mended in my mind because of 451 in this novel, Brave New World. They don't actually really mention each other that much, but in the author's notes to Brave New World, I thought Huxley brought up a good point. 15 years after he published it, he went back to it. And he saw that some scientific advancements had been made, hydrogen power, nuclear power, all these changes that he couldn't envision. And the reason that him and Bradbury become kind of not the same, but like-minded, is not just because of their great dystopian novels, but just like Bradbury, once reviewing it, Huxley refused to change anything about his novel. Because look, he said, if I change anything about it, then I have to change the whole thing. You can't just change the bad. You have to change the good and the bad. And no, it's a novel. It's done. What's there is there. Take it as it is and enjoy it, which I did immensely. Actually, I don't know anyone who did not enjoy this novel. I know the detractors are out there. You always are. Fuck off. I can tell you that when it was originally brought out, it was not well accepted. From the author's note, it looks like Huxley was an essayist. Going by the notes, I don't really know what was happening in England in the late 20s, early 30s. But this novel is not just dystopian, it's a social commentary. That's half the point of dystopian sci-fi novels, is you get to go to the future and make fun of where you think our world's heading. And of course, that's what Huxley does in this. Obviously, the original critics weren't impressed with his ideas. But today, some, 80 years after it's been published, we can look at it and go, oh, wow. A lot of his ideas came true. And what sucks is a lot of those ideas he had weren't good ideas. He's writing it more of as a warning. Don't go here. And look at where we are. Anyway, Brave New World. This starts in the fertilization rooms, because in the future, you're not born. To be born, it's a curse word. It's gross. You're not hatched out of an egg, but you're born out of a tube. The scientists have gotten rid of all genetic defects. Any retardations, they've gotten rid of them. So you're in a fertilization room. And here is where they engineer the future generations to be involved in one of four classes. You're born in alpha, a beta, a delta, or an epsilon. Now, alphas, they run everything. They're your CEOs in this novel, your controllers, directors, your scientists. The high-paying well positions are headed by the alphas. And the epsilons, it goes all the way to... Epsilons are basically retards. I say they got rid of all genetic defects, but they keep some in place. It's for a purpose. Everything they do is for a purpose. That's what's nice of this. Epsilons are bred to do manual labor. They don't need brain activity. It's not needed. As a matter of fact, the only thing the scientists are trying to perfect about epsilons is to make them physically mature by the age of 6, just so they can get to work quicker. I love that. It's such a British idea to me. So you can become functioning. So you can become mature and you can get to work. I don't know why that's British to me, but it is. And it makes me smile. And then once the kids grow up just a little bit, they're showing it like 4 or 5 with the director. The director, that's how Huxley's introducing you to this world. The director is taking students around. They tour at first the fertilization room. Then you go to the nursery where the kids are involved in erotic play. Oh yeah. They bring up the point that, do you know in the past it was looked down upon for people to engage in erotic play until they were sometimes 20? And gas from all the kids. Because in this future, they're involved in erotic play from the time they're 4, 5, and 6 years old. They don't want it to be a hindrance. Any pleasure you need, This future society gives it to you. It's all about keeping you pleasured and keeping you happy, keeping you working and in line. They found every way to do it, and they exploit it to keep the masses happy. Whereas the lower level caste, they go to the second lowest, the deltas. Shows how they're conditioned to hate books and nature. They take a baby, a baby that's crawling, and they show it a book or flowers or something that a baby's going to respond to positively. So it crawls at it all happy. Yay! I know kids don't go yay, but fuck off. Yay! And then whenever it's reaching its chubby little baby hand out to that flower, that book, that thing that should make it happy, but it's not allowed to. And when it's about to touch it, an alarm goes off to scare the baby. And then the floor electroshocks the baby. And then guess what? The baby won't reach for those flowers or that book anymore. The baby has been successfully conditioned to hate nature and to hate reading. The lower level castes are conditioned to hate travel, to go out to nature, because that's a waste of their time, and to engage in brain activities such as reading, because again, it's a waste of their time. To do their jobs, they don't need those things. As a matter of fact, those things can be a hindrance to doing their job better. So they're conditioned not to do those things. They make the point, the director, or maybe it's Mustafa Mann, the actual controller, they make the point that all suggestions are our suggestions. So the populace, they can suggest anything they like. They can come up with any idea that they want. They can speak about anything that they want, because it doesn't matter. All those ideas you think you're having, we put into your heads. We did that. All your suggestions are our suggestions. And how did they do that? Through the greatest force of, how do they put it? 1 second, bear with me here. The greatest conditioning tool there we go, sorry about that. The greatest moralizing and socializing force of all time. Hypnopathic suggestion. What this is while you're sleeping. For 8 hours a day, a third of your life, you're sleeping. So what they did is while you're sleeping, there's an audio recording going off the entire time you're sleeping. So instead of your subconscious merely unwinding the ideas from the day, your subconscious is taking in their suggestions. From the time you're born, this happens every night while you're asleep. So every thought that you have has been implanted in your head, because a third of your life, all you're doing is hearing it. So most things you even say in the day-to-day situation is an idea that was put into your head. It was the ultimate thing in cultivating civilization. This cultivated it. This changed everything for this world. For the brave new world was hypnopathic suggestion, by putting all the ideas into your head, so all ideas are okay, because they are our ideas. So good. And then we finally get to meet some characters. Like I said, Mustafa Mann comes out, the controller of Western Europe, one of the 10 controllers of the world. It's a great honor for these kids to be led around by the Mustafa Mann. And this is where we meet the actual characters that are in the book. And what's nice about the book is it's just not social commentary. It's not just sci-fi goodness. This is a book of outcasts. In the beginning, you think the main character is Bernard Marx. He is a worker, an alpha worker in the psychology division. Basically, psychology division, he works with hypnopathic suggestions. Psychology, the ultimate in psychology, is controlling your brain, your thoughts. He works on hypnopathic suggestion. Then the lead female of the book, Lenina Crown. Lenina Crown. We'll just say Lenina. Lenina. Now, Bernard, he's an outcast because he's physically deficient. He's small. He's kind of slow. People mock him behind his back because they all say he had alcohol dumped into his tube as a kid. And then they snigger, fucking Bernard. And it's funny. Lenina, she's kind of an outcast because for the last 4 months, she's been with one man. Now, she's telling this to her friend Fan. He's like, ew, what's wrong with you? You've only been with one man for 4 months? It's not socially acceptable. We all belong to each other. You should be giving yourself to everyone. And then, this is where I get so pissed off when people down writers because they, like I said, they just put them into this little cast. It irks me. Huxley's, everyone agrees Brave New World's good. They don't like the rest of his stuff. Who cares? But in this novel, it's pages 47 through 56, so it goes right at 10 pages. There's a section where Mustafa Mond is talking to the kids touring the facilities. Lenina and Fanny are basically talking about morals of the female, morals of life. And then there's a section of Bernard. Bernard's glum and unhappy, just, it sucks to be me. But anyway, Huxley weaves these three distinct, different conversations into one section. And he doesn't do it with he does it with paragraph breaks, basically. There's no chapter 1, 2, 3. There's no chapter breaks. There's no official break. It's basically hidden enter twice on your keyboard. For him, it would have been on his typewriter. He didn't break it into sections. There's no star saying this changes to them. It's just basically two spaces in between. And he weaves it. And it gets so good that you no longer even need the names mentioned. He doesn't have to say Mustafa Mond says. He doesn't have to say Fanny said. He doesn't have to say Bernard said or Lenina heard. Names are basically taken completely out. And guess what? You don't need the names as a reader. You can follow it along perfectly. It's like the singing montage in a movie where three different groups are singing and it all comes together in one beautiful song. That's what Huxley crafted in this section. It comes together so beautifully that you can have three separate dialogues, three separate discussions, all going on the one piece of paper. Sometimes there'll be two sections from one person on one page. And like I said, no names, but you don't need them. That is writing as a craft. That is taking your words and crafting them in such a way that it's easily identifiable for the reader, and you move the plot along by showing three different sets of characters and who they are, what they're doing, where they're going. Huxley deserved an award just for that section. So beautiful. And then in the end, it's realized that Bernard doesn't like Lenina viewing herself or that others viewing her as a piece of meat. And again, Lenina doesn't mind it. She's a woman. She belongs to everyone else. Everyone belongs to everyone else. She doesn't mind it, but Bernard doesn't like it. It's an idea that keeps coming up in this book, how Lenina and women in general are viewed as pieces of meat, and certain outcasts, they don't care for it. It leads to things. But anyway, Lenina, outcast that she is, she's got summer vacation plans with Bernard. And of course, Fanny and everyone else like, what the fuck are you seeing the little alcohol tube baby dude for? Oh, I like him. She's a nice chick. She sees the good in everybody. And plus, she's been with the same dude for the last 4 months. She needs to hump somebody else, for God's sake. Or, I'm sorry, not for God's sake. In this book, there's really no religion. Religion's been taken out of society, at least civilized society. You don't go, God, or Jesus Christ. You go, oh, Ford. By Ford. And of course, he's going back to I guess he's the father of the internal combustion engine. He popularized it, at least. I'm sure somebody else that got zero credit and $0 came up with it first, and Ford used it better. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I think that's right. But anyway, they see Ford as the father of it and the Industrial Revolution. So, they're a society on progress. They're a society of getting things done. So, praise Ford! Oh, Ford! Fuck me, Ford. That's never actually said, but if I was going to rewrite it, that's what I would say. Anyway, Lenina and Bernard are going off to summer vacation. And where are they going? They're going to the reservation, a savage reservation, to see what life was like before society. And then there's the other outcast. There's Helmholtz. Helmholtz is another alpha. He's kind of Bernard's buddy. The two they form a friendship around both being outcasts. While Bernard's is a physical deficiency that makes him an outcast, Helmholtz, for him, it's a mental excess. As a matter of fact, his partners see him as a little too able. And in a society where everyone's the same and everyone belongs to everyone, you don't want to be seen as better. Worse isn't good, better is not good either. It's not good at all. So Helmholtz, he gets bragged to by Bernard. Usually Bernard's just kind of bitching. And Helmholtz is used to that. He'll bounce some of his own ideas off of Bernard. But Bernard's bragging that he gets to go to the reservation, and the director threatened to send him to Iceland if he didn't shape up. And Bernard saw that as a plus. Someone's paying attention to me. Look at me. And Helmholtz's like, the fuck, you're too sad or too excited? Gotta find a better friend. But anyway, really the reason the director threatened to send Bernard to Iceland is because the director, whenever he approved Bernard and Lenina going to the reservation, he thought back to a time when he himself also went to a savage reservation and a woman was with him. Forgotten about that woman. I think I left her there. That's right. She stumbled off and got lost and we couldn't find her. Whatever happened to her? And of course in novels, this is just foreshadowing. Bernard's going there. Of course he's going to run into the woman. It's not even foreshadowed for long. It's like 3 pages apart. You hear the story from the director, and then Bernard goes, and it's like the first person he runs into. Maybe second, besides this tour guide that's also a savage. I don't fucking know. I gotta take a break, guys. Real quick word from our sponsor, then we'll come back with the conclusion of Brave New World right after this. This week's book report is brought to you by the in-home hypnopedic suggestion machine. That's right. No more wasting time while you're asleep, guys. Got some facts you want to get done? Don't have time while you're doing it during the day? Then get your own hypnopedic suggestion machine straight from Huxley's Brave New World. From now on, no more wasting time while you sleep. Get those suggestions implanted in your head so you can be more productive throughout your days. Don't think you're the problem? Maybe it's the mate in your life. Program one for your woman. Or ladies, program one for your guy. That way, while he sleeps, he'll wake up knowing he's got to get those household chores done. Or for the fellas, guess what you can suggest she does while she sleeps? Not even going to bring it up here. You've all got your own filthy ideas of what your woman should be doing. So go ahead, get out there, folks, and get your own hypnopedic sleep suggestion machine today. All right, guys. Now, I feel like I've done a lot of these sci-fi type of books, and I'm really not that big of a sci-fi guy. But as readers, you got to go out of your element sometime, especially with the classics. I mean, Brave New World I had read years ago. Fahrenheit 451. I just had to read that, and I read it recently, and I couldn't believe I'd never read it before. Jules Verne is just good writing. It's more of an action-adventure story, but he kind of created the genre of sci-fi out of his action-adventure style of writing about these smart English people. So, it's why you can't let labels dissuade you from reading particular people. Kurt Vonnegut Jr. himself, he was simply put down as a sci-fi writer for years when he's so much more. So go outside of your comfort zone now and then. Like with this book, Brave New World. Who would have thought in a sci-fi future you would go to a savage reservation? That's of course how the civilized people view it. It's a savage reservation. And they treat it like it's a wildlife reserve. There is electric fence going all the way around it. Not really to keep the savages in, as much to keep the civilized out. I mean, of course they don't want the savages coming in, but they don't want the civilized going out and getting ideas from these savages that haven't been put in their heads through hypnopedic suggestion. All suggestions are our suggestions. It's a very important line throughout this whole novel. But they don't mind people going and seeing how terrible it is on these reservations, the conditions. It's dirty, for one. It's in dirt. The reservation that Bernard and Lenina go to is in the southwest United States. So I don't know if Huxley was just like taking an old Western, a cowboy and Indian movie and saying, let's just put it there where the Indians were. Could be. It doesn't really matter. They go there. And of course, they meet the one director's lost love. But of course, now she's fat. She's nasty. She is an outcast to the savages. The savage women hate her because she tries to fuck all of the savages. She grew up in a time and a place where everyone belonged to everyone. So of course she was giving herself freely, but the savage women weren't having none of it. Their men were their men. And when another lady comes and tries to hump on their men, they got pissed. So here we have yet another outcast. And of course, she gave birth to, that's the other thing. Curse words aren't just, oh, Ford, in the future. They're words like born, family, mother, father. These things, it is put into your head from the beginning, from the time you're in a bottle, that these are bad things. You should grow up in society. Let society take care of you and teach you what you need, not a family. So the fact that this civilized woman is stuck in the savage land and she had a child, she had to give birth to a child. It's the most disgusting thing to her. And this child, he's naturally an outcast as well. His mother's an outcast living on the outskirts of the savage reservation. And Bernard is fascinated, mainly because now he has a trump card. He knows he's not well liked. But now here he has a woman left behind by not just any alpha, but a director alpha. He's going to bring this woman and her child back to civilization. And of course, while they're there, Lenina hates it. It's dirty, and God forbid she forgot her bottle of Soma back at the hotel. So not only is she stuck in, I guess what we would think of as the real world, dirt, just air, no buildings, you're just somewhere, basically a park. But she's stuck there for days without her happy pills. She doesn't have her Valium acid mix to get happy no matter the situation. She's trapped here, and she's trapped in reality, and she is miserable. And they witness this weird, it's shown as a tribal scene with drums, and it's semi-religious with the man Jesus and with the great, I don't know, eagle spirit or something. It was like a combining of savage and Christian religions all into one. But while watching it, Bernard, he was reminded of Orgy Porgy. Because they got the drums, they're beating it to a savage level. There's a savage in the middle getting, instead of everyone humping, the focus is on this one savage in the middle getting whipped. Just getting whipped. And he takes, what does he take? Shit. I ain't got it written down. Anyway, the young man who is the martyr, basically the sacrificial lamb, his blood was spilt on the dirt so that the gods and the man Jesus would bless the land and rain would fall upon it as his blood does. And this is where we meet John, the son of the savage and of the civilized woman left in the savage lands. And John is the ultimate outcast. He really becomes the hero of the book. He isn't introduced till halfway through, but he takes it over the rest of the way through. He takes it over from Bernard, because Bernard kind of turns into an ass. But when they first meet him, he brags. He could have taken 12. No, correct that. John could have taken 15 whips of that ceremony. He would have made it rain on the crops. He would have made it a good spring. But he was not allowed. He wasn't allowed to take place in the ceremony. He's an outsider. And I'm sorry, I actually do have some notes. The mom is Linda. And his dad is referred to as Tomakin, and that is the director. So he's not half savage, half civilized. He's all civilized. He just happened to be born, in a savage place. And of course, he's blonde-haired and fair-skinned. The savages hate him. He's an outcast. He wasn't going to get to let it rain on the crops. Fuck that kid. So anyway, John is the hero, and Bernard takes mom Linda and son John back to the civilized world. And this creates a sensation throughout England. I keep saying England. It's Western Europe. That's how it's referred to. I keep saying England because it's written by a limey guy, so I just go to the limey land. No! It's all of Western Europe. That's where he takes him in the sensation of having savages. It's a hit. Everyone wants to meet the savages. But of course, Linda, she gets back, and she's She is so happy to be back in civilization. She can't face people. She can't face what she's done and relate it to others. She just keeps taking Soma until she basically kills herself with Soma. But it's all she wanted, was to get out of reality and back to her happy dream state of living. And now John at first doesn't mind it. He kind of likes it. He had always dreamed of going to civilization where he belongs. That's how the savages put it. You belong. But he hates becoming a showpiece. Bernard loves it because he's getting all this credit for bringing them back, when actually he didn't do anything. He just met these people and traveled with them. But he's getting what he wanted. Attention from all the girls. He brags to Helmholtz, I'm with a different girl every night. A guy like Helmholtz, who's more focused on his mental faculties and is turning down women left and right, doesn't care. Bernard keeps becoming littler and littler in Helmholtz's mind. He's no longer a colleague. He's no longer a fellow outcast. He's just a braggart of a douche who isn't going to be happy in any row. And now the breaking point for John. John tries to make it work in society until his mom, Linda, does pass. Now you got to think, he had dreamed of always going to the civilized land, but his entire world had been his mom. She was the one that nurtured him, raised him, suckled him at the breast, actually, literally. And now his mom, the one person he was close to, because he's not close to any of these people in civilization. He kind of wants Lenina, but again, this is where he steps in the role of Bernard. He wants Lenina as a savage wants a woman. He wants a woman for his, not a piece of meat that's just going to give herself to him. And Lenina's not that lady. Again, she kind of has, it keeps going back to I was with the same man for 4 months. She kind of knows it, but she can't get past her social conditioning. No matter how much she wants John just to be with the savage, just to be with him. And then to move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. That's her role in life, and she's fine with it. John can't have that. Like I said, he kind of steps in for Bernard. He wants that one woman, that one tribe, that one family unit that he saw. And as much as he was an outcast from it, he sees it as kind of better than civilization. It's the other kind of good social commentary. Not only does he make fun of it through the directors showing you throughout the future landscape, but then a savage comes into this civilized land, and he finds it wanting as well, even though it's all he ever dreamed of. But then Mama Linda passes. And in the future, death just happens. You're conditioned to die at 60. Now, you're going to be at your full mental and physical capabilities from the time you're, 10 or 12. They accelerated the gene process, and you don't age. Once you reach a certain peak, it's like 22, I think. Should be 22 at least. Once you get to be about 22 years of age, that's how you look until you're 60 and you just die. You just expire. You're just done. It's like if that expiration date on your milk meant something, and as soon as it turned that day, it curdled and turned bad. That's how humans are in the future. You turn 60, you're dead. People just deal with it. They don't care about death. But John wasn't raised here. He didn't have the hypnopathic suggestions. He loved his mom. It's the one person he was ever close to. And when his mom passes, and she's just treated like, literally now, a piece of meat, not one that you fuck, but one you just dispose of for its genetic material, he loses it. Calls them all crazy. And after that, he won't go to Bernard's parties anymore. He'll no longer be showed off to these civilized people. He will not be the showpiece that gets Bernard laid. He refuses the parties. Flat out refuses. And so Bernard's celebrity goes right back downhill. He's once more an outcast. And now Mustafa Mond, the controller, steps back in. Tells them all, hey, well, first of all, the director that banged Linda and left her in the savage land, he gets outcast Iceland. That's what every outcast happens to them. They get sent away to these islands. Mustafa Mond. Shakespeare's brought up a lot in this. It's where Old Brave New World, it's where it comes from. A soliloquy from one of the Shakespeare plays. I get confused. I'm not a Shakespearean scholar. But it's a nice little intellectual exchange between Mustafa and Helmholtz. Helmholtz can't wait to be exiled. He wants to get away. He can just go to an island and express himself mentally. He sees it as a new challenge in life, and he's ready to accept it. He can't wait to accept it. Whereas Bernard's back to not getting any pussy, and he's just a... Bernard is a pussy. I mean, that's why Helmholtz kind of like talking to him, but fuck him. Helmholtz has even given up on him. Bernard's all sad about being exiled. Whereas Helmholtz is excited. And John just wants to get away, and he's allowed to. So he finds an isolated region, a lighthouse. It's still standing. I mean, it was a marvel of architecture once. It's withstood the years and the earthquakes. It's not used anymore. Why would a primitive lighthouse be used? So John makes it his home. He stays there, and he's happy. Makes a fishing rod like he was taught by the savages. Makes some bows and some arrows for hunting. John's starting a good life. He's starting to accept his own humble little place in the land. And he makes his own whip. It's kind of like the old Catholic thing where they whip themselves to, I don't know, get rid of their sins or whatever the hell them crazy fucks are trying to do. But John takes to the whipping. And he's not mad about it. He's bleeding out all of his impurities. He's getting rid of all of it. He's basically becoming a guru, I guess? Is that what you call those guys that sit on a mountainside? People want their wisdom and they won't even talk to them. They just want to get away from it all and be spiritual and be one. That's what John's looking for. But then the people show up. People show up and they start filming John, especially the whipping of himself. It's so strange to them to watch a man beating himself and beating himself. They don't get it, but they love it. As a matter of fact, one guy that gets the best footage of it turns it into a movie. And then all of Western Europe goes to see this movie. And now John is a celebrity. So one day when he's going for a walk, it's not a couple of interviewers. It's not a couple of carts to show up to watch him. It's hundreds. It's thousands. They black out the sky. They surround John. In his fury, he takes his whip down. And he's just trying to whip at them, but they keep staying out of reach except for one person. Poor Lenina. It's not really said that she had decided to give herself to John completely and fully and to become that future family, that future happiness. It's a dystopian novel. There is no future happiness here. Lenina comes running in, but she runs into John's full fury. Whips her to death in front of all the crowds. No one raises a hand to stop him. No one does anything. But he beats Lenina to death with that whip. The next day, you find John. His boots are a couple feet off the ground, just swaying slowly back and forth in a doorway. He wanted nothing else from this brave new world, so he took himself out of it. Goddamn, guys, this is just a great read. If you haven't read it, please do yourself a favor. It's a short read, too. It's quick. And it's really not that sci-fi. Not that sci-fi. That should be on title. Kind of sci-fi, but kind of not. And it's really not. It's more, like I said, it's a social commentary, but it's a book of outcasts. And how in a society of outcasts, or in a society where everything's the same, the outcasts can kind of come together and try to find their spot in the world, but it's not easy. Unless, of course, you got some Valium laden with LSD. Then you're good to go and happy no matter how miserable you are. So whatever lesson you take away from Huxley, enjoy it. He's brilliant. The detractors, y'all hate everything. Who gives a fuck? So come on, guys. Get out there. Read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. You never know. You might just like it more than me.